The strength of any building is on the foundation. It is the attitude of the leaders that forms the national identity of the nation and gets transmitted. And that's what I'm letting you know in this video, that the leadership of Nigeria currently has a criminal attitude, right from the federal to the state, to the representatives, to the judiciary, to INEC. Every leadership position, NNPC, every leadership infrastructure in Nigeria, EFCC, DSS, every leadership infrastructure in Nigeria is filled with corruption. It produces a corrupt nation.
Every greatness is built by minds that search for answers beyond the ordinary. You can build one. Welcome to the Made Man Podcast.
I'm Dr. Faith. Welcome to the Made Man Podcast. Today, I'll be talking about the identity crisis of Nigeria and its impact to national development. You see, the strength of any building is on the foundation. The strength of any society lies on the visions of the founding fathers. A society is consciously formed. A society is consciously built. A society is consciously developed to follow a pattern. There has to be blueprints ingrained in the culture, ingrained in the attitude and the mindset of the people of a particular nation to have consistency and coherency in the operations of that society. When you talk about the United States, where I've been for some time now, I have taken time to actually take online classes to understand the visions and the plans of the founding fathers of the United States. The Constitution of the United States reflects the ideology of the founding fathers, because this was an immigrant country, and the people who found it had an ideology on how they wanted the United States to run. There were clear thought policies on how to handle their internal policies. There were also clear cut policies on how they want to deal with the other nations. There were plans for involvement in outside politics. And when you go across the world, there are some traditional countries today that you can see, maybe places like China, Japan, Korea, that you could see. Maybe some places also in the Middle East and some African countries, even some European countries, countries that have not been colonized or maybe have found their independence and returned back to their original ways of life. You are going to see their humanity. You are going to see their thoughts, their way of life ingrained in their political system. Laws are made that sustain those ideologies on how people relate. Their laws are interpreted and ingrained, blended with their way of life. I wrote something on Twitter of recent, and I said that Nigeria is nothing but an offshore company for the nations of the world and for some elites. And somebody will say, what do you mean by that? And the question that I will ask you, what is the nationality of Nigeria? What is the national identity? What is the national ideology of Nigeria? None. Every ethnic group in Nigeria has its own nationalistic idea. The North think like the North. The West think like the West. The East think like the East. The South think like the South. The Middle Belt think like the Middle Belt. There is no unifying vision for Nigeria because there was none. One of the things I was writing on Twitter, I'm saying, how can a nation be that the founding fathers of that nation are not part of that nation? Can you go to Europe to define Europe for them? Can you go to Middle East and tell them how to live their life? Can you write a constitution for another country that you don't live in? And the question that people need to ask to understand the foundation of Nigeria is, who were we before they named Nigeria? It's not a problem being together. This is not a teaching for secession. This is not a teaching for, hey, this is Igbo, this is Yoruba, this is not. No, we are discussing our national identity. How do we go away from where we are? Ask yourself today, the leadership that we have, what? See, listen, if you come to Nigeria right now, do you know why diasporans find it difficult to invest in Nigeria? It's because there is no trust in Nigeria. Outside of the issues of road, lack of security, the energy crisis in Nigeria, outside of these fundamental issues, which are very strong economic issues for any nation to have development, that is lacking in Nigeria. Outside of these issues, diasporans find it difficult to find anybody local in Nigeria that you can trust. I sat with some friends this week. No, not this week. I think last week or last 2 weeks. And I had some very dirty, sad stories of people who left the United States, came back to Nigeria to do businesses, and were killed. Some were kidnapped. Some were poisoned by their family members. People who sent money to their family members to have buildings for them, raise buildings for them, worked all their life, only to come back home to relax and check their investment or the things that they have raised, and there was nothing. You know these stories. These things are everywhere. Why do you think the diasporans will come back to invest? And you know, when I investigate these cases, when I look at them and talk about them, you know the problem that we have? It's not those people. It is a leadership crisis. There are no penal codes in Nigeria for evil. There is no national identity that is coming from the leaders that can be projected to the poor. When you hear about share the cake, the national cake, there is no hope for tomorrow for Nigeria if credible leaders don't get in position. And what I tell you right now, you can validate. The poor man in the street in Nigeria today is looking for an opportunity to get into power to steal his own. The mentality of every Nigerian is that whatever thing that you call a national treasury is no man's own. A Nigerian, a normal Nigerian, average Nigerian on the street now do not have the mentality that if he gets into power, he needs to account for anybody. Every little position, opportunity that people get into power is a time to loot. It's a time to settle yourself for life. It's a time to grab your own cake. And you ask yourself, where did this start? Well, sorry to shock you. Nigeria has always been founded as a company. And then company, you focus on profits, not profit for the people who work in the company, not profits for your customers. You maximize on the profits for the executives. That is how a company works. That was the foundation of Nigeria. And check most of the leadership that Nigeria has had. It's being run like a company. Maximum profit for the executive. No other person. If you're not in power in Nigeria, you're poor. Somebody was talking about in one of the podcasts I was listening to last time, I think last week. And he said that there are no middle classes in Nigeria. He said that you're rich or you're poor. How can the wealthiest people in a nation be those within the corridors of power? Does that not baffle you? Can you have a credible society? That if you're not connected to anybody in power, you're not connected to the authority, your wealth cannot be sustained. How can that nation survive? So when we talk about identity crisis in Nigeria, it's not only destroying possible investment that would come into the country, it's destroying the credibility of Nigeria. There is no unifying factor. Anybody can tell me, what is our unifying factor in Nigeria? There is nothing. The only thing that brings every Nigerian together to think as a single nation is soccer. In the absence of that, there is nothing that sustains us. The only people that you find who are together in Nigeria is the elite, those in power. Because they must show interest. They must be there to do the politicking to be able to get their own share of the national cake. Then once in a while here and there, you are going to see some maybe representative of doctor or governors who stand up to do some good for their people, like we have with Alex Oti in Nigeria. And maybe once in a while you see someone spring up maybe wherever in another state, and after that another circle of destruction goes in. For good 24 years for good 24 years before Alex Oti, 3 governors that ruled in Abia State. What could we talk about? What did we see? 3 governors before Alex Oti that I'm aware of. I don't know what happened before then. These were when I grew up, that I had knowledge and began to follow politics. 2 successive terms for them in Nigeria, in Abia State. 24 good years wasted. There was nothing that we could account for in Abia State that you can say this is a rich dividends of governorship. Nothing. Do you want to talk about the local government chairman? When we talk about the presidency, the same way we talk about your House of Reps. You have House of Reps, you have senators. They all take their allocations that is meant to develop their constituencies. Which one do you see? What comes to us? A Yoruba man is a Yoruba man, an Igbo man is an Igbo man. As funny as it is. South. Today, it's not calling themselves Igbo. And that brings me to this issue of Aniocha that I want to respond to. And we're going to watch this video because I have something to say. And I do not mean any offense. And this is not a defense for Igbos or a defense for Aniocha or this. No, I'm talking about the national identity crisis that we have with Nigeria, because Nigeria must come with all the ethnic groups, come together to negotiate their existence. If Nigeria must ever be together, Nigeria cannot be healed, no matter the type of constitution or politics that you make. If there is no new chart or a new recalibration, Nigeria needs to be founded again by the indigenes of Nigeria. The constitution that we have right now cannot sustain Nigeria. Nigeria needs to be founded again. An identity, an ideology of this marriage has to be defined afresh for you to ever have a sustainable nation. Nigeria has been marred with killings and blood in the civil war, that no matter how much you try to keep it, ideologies of suppression, ideologies of marginalization is going to continue to be there. And if it's going to be healed, then Nigeria must negotiate. Listen, the civil war took lives, and most of those people did not die in good condition. Blood spoke and continued to speak in Nigeria. It's not something that you can suppress. You can't beat a child and tell him how to cry. There's no national identity. There is no way forward for Nigeria if Nigeria does not come back to negotiate itself. Talk of Boko Haram. Talk of the genocide that is going on. Anybody denying it is living in false reality. You're lying to your soul, and you will die lying. There is real fundamental problem in Nigeria. And it's not just in Nigeria. It's like that right now, all over the world, in so many other places. There are wicked, conscious men who are funneling evil in so many parts of the world. And it only takes a people of a nation to define themselves. Every nation must do what pleases and what is best for them. Trump is doing that for what he feels is best for America. Traore is doing what he feels is best for Burkina Faso. England is doing what they feel is best for them. We cannot define the politics of another person, and you're a fool, a big one at that matter, if you allow foreigners to decide your internal politics and the meekness of your economic movement. And it's the reason why Nigeria, from the foundation of that country, do you know Benin Kingdom, how established, the level of development and civilization that Benin Kingdom carried? Do you know the Igbo nation, how strong it was? Do you know how established the Yorubas are? Do you know how the Hausa were established in peace? Very rich and strong in agriculture. We related and there was never a problem until the Niger Company came. And from there it was sold from a single man to Britain. And Nigeria became a company. From becoming a company, They merged this country into rules, into a nation without caring for their fundamental differences and without their opinion. Our forefathers went for war, asking for changes, not physical war. They went for liberation, for independence. After they got that independence, Nigeria got mad into coups and counter coups with reasons that even the people who were plotting the coup and the people who were affected did not even know that most of them were also played by the same people that formed the country. And at the end, where are we? It ended in civil war. Until today, we're still being played. And some hoodlums are in power and conniving with foreign authorities to keep us where we are today. And instead of the indigents and the citizens asking questions for national healing, you are busy playing ethnic bigotry, ethnic politics. You see the Yoruba, you will rejoice that an Igbo man is affected in your land. You will rejoice that an Igbo man's business is destroyed. And yet you travel. You go elsewhere and you wish to succeed. South Africans persecute the people, persecute Nigerians in South Africa, and you speak against South Africa, and you do the same thing at home. It does not matter where you are. If you love evil, evil will come to you. It's as simple as that. It's a circle that will not heal. We must all come back as a nation, as a people who were living together before we were defined by some other non-existent or non-indigenous group of people who had interest in our mineral resources, to come back to tell ourselves how we must stay together, how we have to live together as brothers. We're blacks, we're brothers. We lived in peace before. What makes Nigeria to say this one is not, this is not West? Who brought that ideology? Why not define people according to their ethnic nationalities? Who gave you North? And then this one is Southwest, this is South-South, this is South-East. Go and look at the map of the Southeast, or the South-South, sorry to say. You have Delta, you have Bayelsa, you have Port Harcourt, you have Akwa Ibom, you have Cross River, and now they still have part of Ondo, considered as South-South. And these people are all different in their nationalities, in their languages, in their ethnicity, in their culture. And you call them South-South. Why? Because you just want to engineer hatred against the Igbos. And you're engineering this hatred because you're interested in their mineral resources. And stupid people fall for it. Igbo man is your problem. You feel you're going to be dominated. And Igbo man has never left Igbo land to come and take your land or contest the elections in your place. There is one thing that people forget, is that an Igbo man must go home. No matter the type of business he does everywhere, he wants to go home and retire. He wants to die and be buried in his home. But he never takes the houses that he built in your community. The investment that he has in your community still dies in your community. He must hand it over to his children. He must go home. Everywhere an Igbo man builds, he must build at home, Akuruno. And all the while will travel. Every grown-up Nigeria who stays in Nigeria up to 18 years and travel, go and ask the diaspora. If Nigeria is good, anywhere you go, you make money. People always want to return home. Apart from the people who live young, majority of the people want to go back home. If Nigeria is good, people will travel less. Ask yourself, even in Nigeria where people travel, at the end of it, Igbo man still wants to go home. Some of the properties he has in Lagos, elsewhere, he wants to sell it. Business has to get home at time of retirement. Want to stay in peace, want to retire, want to go back home. Every Igbo man is always buried at home. And everybody in Nigeria has their unique strength that they contribute. One of the things that I have seen with the Yorubas is administration. I've discovered by my own knowledge, I may be wrong, most of the best, conglomerates, when you talk about Yorubas, seem to be very good with corporate business and administration, civil service areas. And check Nigeria, the dynamics of church politics in Nigeria. The Yorubas are having the best and the biggest churches in Nigeria. And now we're seeing some people from Middle Belt. They've been. If the mantle of priesthood is still in that land, you will not go against it. You will only be destroying your life. In as much as we must talk about, the things that go on. I don't like to discuss the church. In some situations I do, when it gets crazy. But you can still not go against a people, if God has raised them up as priests. Every nation in Nigeria has what makes them unique. And we must recognize this individual strength. The North is very good with agriculture. That we still see in some northeastern states, so to say. Places like Enugu, Ebonyi, very strong in agriculture. And they do very well. Then you talk about the oil that is in the South. Why are we forgetting our identities to start answering names that are in the cardinal maps? Now you prefer to be called South, and you forgot that you have a name. And stupid people don't wake up to ask themselves, who were we before the white came? Who were we before Nigeria was called a nation? Where are we from? What is your root? What's your name? And you answer all these names and drag and, work with the politicians to destroy your land, and these people still end up taking their children outside and enjoying their life. What is your benefit that a Yoruba person wins the election in Nigeria? What's your benefit? Tell me. You don't have any. That Tinubu won this election brought nothing to you. But if road had been built in Nigeria by an Igbo person, you will enjoy it. All of us today are praising Yaradua. It's not because the North is the best friend of the East or the North is the best friend of the West. Because we're a country. And Yaradua did good. Goodluck Jonathan did good. We know the troubles that befell, that happened to the administration. Yaradua did good. And everybody praised him. Buhari became the opposite. We all know. Didn't we praise him because he's the North? And we are going to not acknowledge his history because he's a Northern? No, but he's a Nigerian. For now that we all find ourselves in Nigeria, then we must make it work. And if we cannot be able to come to regenerate our identity as a nation, then there is no hope for us. I tell you that there is no hope for us. Sorry, this is taking a long time. I'm going to play a video of Shehu and Ned Nwoko. I want you, it's a little bit. I've said most of the things that I want to say. It's 3-4 minutes. Please do listen, and then I will just comment briefly and we'll be done. But this video is very important that you listen to it, because there are a few things you will get from what I'm saying.
Ask you, and this exists in almost every region of the country, where you have your brothers in different states and all what. Now, are there Igbos outside of the 5 states of the Southeast in Nigeria today?
Well, I'm surprised you're asking.
No, because for the sake of our
yes, for the sake of your listeners,
yeah.
Let me say this: when it was Western Nigeria, when we had Western Nigeria, I'm sure you've had of some people being described as Western Igbos. Subsequently, when Midwest was created, when by referendum, as you know, they were called Midwest Igbos. Then the name changed to Bendel. They were called Bendel Igbos, and of course Delta came up with the Edo State, and now they're called the Delta Igbos, and that is the Aniomas, the people, our people.
9 local government
areas
in that senatorial district,
and we are almost completely Igbos. Of course, there are arguments about some areas, some people have come from Igala or come from Benin, but the fact is that according to Delta State gazetted laws, there are only 5 ethnic groups in Delta: the Yorubas, the Igbos, the Ejos, the Shekiris, and the Isokos. There's no mention of Benin. There's no mention of Yorubas, or also within Delta North.
Apart from Delta North,
yeah,
there are those who say, and you might be touching the wrong nerve here. In River State, for example,
Yeah.
there are Igbos there.
Oh, of course, yeah.
The Aquarius.
Opobos.
Or the Opobos.
They're everywhere. Igbos are everywhere. Igbos actually.
So if you create, for example, are you hoping that they will join the Anioma State, or Anioma State is going to solely from your proposition and the literature that they have put forward, is going to be solely from the 9 local government areas of Delta North?
Look, initially, my bill was centered around the 9 local government areas of Delta North. And however, a lot has happened since then. But if you look at the explanatory note to my bill, it talks about the Anioma State to become the 6th state of the Southeast, the 37th state of the country.
Does the Southeast, so the 5 states in the Southeast see you as Igbos?
Of course, yes.
And I've heard,
of course.
I don't speak much of Igbo, but I've heard
I can tell you, look,
the 45 Igbos of the Anioma.
No. Every language has dialects. Mm-hmm. Every language, even Yorubas, from Lagos to Oyo to...
Even the Enugu Igbo is different from the Abia Igbo, is different from the Onitsha Igbo.
Yes. But we are all Igbos. Anioma is historically an Igbo enclave. And there's no doubt about that. From our names to our language, to our culture, our tradition, our food, everything is Igbo. And we have always identified ourselves as Igbos. Of course, there were 2 reasons why, for so many, almost like centuries, we were kept at the back burner, kind of confined to Western Nigeria. And why most people some people from my area seem to have gotten to the point where they were not sure whether they were Igbos or not Igbos. But majority of us understand who we are and understand where we've come from. And let me just explain what I mean. There are, during the war, the Civil War, most we had the Asaba massacre. After the Asaba massacre and the rest of the killings within our area, we were told as kids that if you see Nigerian soldiers, you must not admit that you are Igbo. You must tell them that you're from Benin or that you are Yoruba. These are kind of things that we had to do to survive the ethnic cleansing that happened at that time. So, of course, there was also this issue of Benin Empire. At the time there was a Benin Empire where, the Benin at its heights extended their tentacles to our area. So much so that some people began to think that they were Benins. But we're not Benins, we're Igbos. And there's nothing Benin about us.
All right. You had Ned Nwoko and the things that he stated. Their Igbo heritage is practically what he is explaining. And who defines the state? The creation of states that they started splitting people in Nigeria and putting them in a particular state and renaming them is a political process and was a political decision. And simply, these decisions were targeted on divide and conquer because of the natural resources that they saw in these regions. Now you were called Delta. Was that your name before you were named Delta? Who were you? You were carved together because now you were called Delta and they called you South and they now made you to hate the Igbos for reasons that you cannot explain. Therefore, your heritage as Igbo person must be lost. And I'm addressing some commentaries, some people that I have seen who were able to buy data and pick up their phone and come online and begin to rant nonsense when you don't have any history of your heritage. When you don't know, you don't have history of your heritage. It's like the way I am today from Abia State. My village is very close to Ibibio. And then tomorrow, we get carved into a new state or maybe get carved into Akwa Ibom. And then from being carved into Akwa Ibom, we're enjoying the oil that is coming, the oil money that is coming from Akwa Ibom State, and then tomorrow they tell us that the people in Abia State are our problem, that are trying to take over our state. Because of that, and I'll tell you tomorrow that, or my children come up tomorrow and tell you that they are not Igbos. Is that not sheer stupidity? Because now somebody tells you that you are in Akwa Ibom, because you're in Akwa Ibom, that you are South. And then you wake up tomorrow and say, I am not Igbo. Something is wrong with the way we think in Nigeria. People don't ask questions. You were divided and hatred was planted into your heart for resource control, nothing more. The politicians in Nigeria are all gaining from the ethnic bigotry. And they all go back together in Abuja. Almost all of them are living together today in Abuja. They all share the money in Abuja. When it's time for election, they come to preach bigotry to you. And you buy it, and you rejoice with it on the streets. And you make noise. You cause tension. You brew hatred. At the end, you gain nothing. Very foolish without a trace of your ancestry. Who were you before Nigeria? And who are you currently within Nigeria? What is your benefit? How is Nigeria benefiting you with the current state? And it's the reason why people do not know that change starts from the top. Because the leaders project a kind of attitude that goes down. Look at beautiful America today. I don't like to talk about, their politics so much. America today is divided between the right and the left, Democrats and Republicans. How did this thing start? It only started with a foolish fight from members of the party, that America got divided today between right ideologies and left ideologies, simply because the right and the left now entered into a tussle of war on political ideology that transmitted down to the population. America today is either you are right or you are left. The independents are very little. It's still very few people today that can think right and tell themselves that this thing that is being done by the right is wrong and this that is being done by the left is wrong. And they can come at the middle and think sensibly. Very few persons. It is the attitude of the leaders that forms the national identity of the nation and gets transmitted. And that's what I'm letting you know in this video, that the leadership of Nigeria currently has a criminal attitude, right from the federal to the state, to the representatives, to the judiciary, to INEC. Every leadership position, NNPC, every leadership infrastructure in Nigeria, EFCC, DSS, every leadership infrastructure in Nigeria is filled with corruption. It produces a corrupt nation. It's very rare to find citizens in Nigeria who are pure in their hearts. And when we see them, we celebrate them. That's the reason why I don't play with my team. If you're blessed with family members who are responsible, that you can trust funds into their hand and they manage it, then you're blessed. If you're blessed to have a team in Nigeria that you can give money and tell them to do this for you, you're not around and they can deliver such job with all honesty, then you're blessed. They are very rare to find. And it's not coming from everywhere, anywhere. It's the system. Army brutalize you, police brutalize you, DSS brutalize you. EFCC will do the same. There is no law. You go to court, you can't have justice. So people take laws into their hand. The system is made so hard. You go to NNPC, nothing is working. The refineries are taking money. You come to governors, the same way they eat money. House of Rep, where is working in Nigeria? Tell me. Tell me one sector in Nigeria that you cannot, that their corruption is not glaring. Is it custom? What do you want to talk about? Which system is designed in Nigeria to work? And you do not trace your history. You don't know that it's coming from the foundation of Nigeria. That Nigeria was designed together to plunder the people. And the same mentality Britain handed over to the people who are ruling Nigeria. Until now, that system has prevailed. Nigeria is a brutal offshore nation, offshore company, for the leaders and for foreign governments. It's a hard truth. But if there is going to be a change in Nigeria, then the people must understand where their problem is coming from, sit down together, renegotiate their national identity, come together to build confidence back into the state. Everybody in Nigeria must have to define whom they are. If there is any hope at all that we think we can muster. And I feel very sad for those on the streets. I feel very sad for the poor masses who are fanning these ideologies. Look at people in Aniocha. I was going through the 9 local government that near the court. They're all Igbos and they speak Igbo. We have dialects. Aniocha means a good land, like a white land. If I am making literal interpretation, you have Aniocha North, you have Aniocha South. Literal interpretation, Aniocha means a white sand. That's white sand. What you pull from water. White sand. Eka North, Eka South. In fact, if you go to Abia State, what do we call them? Okwa. Okwa call Aka. Eka. It's the same thing in Ebonyi. Aka is Eka. They could have a different meaning for it in Delta. But this is an Igbo name. Eka. It means Aka. That's hand. Ndokwa. Ondokwa. That's to organize. To put something together. You have Ndokwa West. You have Ndokwa East. You have Oshimili North and Oshimili South. What is Oshimili? River. And then you have Okwane. Okwo means hand. Leg, sorry. And then is ground. Maybe that could represent maybe something like a valley. Or a descending denudation. These are Igbo names. I'm not going into the ethnic history. I'm not even asking you to be Igbo. If you don't want to be Igbo, don't be Igbo. But stop commenting rubbish. Because this ethnic bigotry is not helping us in Nigeria. It's not building anybody. You're just manifesting your foolishness. We're not facing our direct changes. Who cares the name that you answer if Nigeria is working? Who cares? And who tells you that from somebody from Anambra is coming to gain from the oil money of Delta State? Who cares? No matter where I go today, don't I want to retire to Abia State? Ikwere person Obibo wants to come and tell you that he's not Igbo. Who gave you Port Harcourt? You answer Igbo name, your name is Igbo. As far as Goodluck Jonathan, answering Ebere, from where Otueke, I've been to his village. As far as that, there is Igbo rich. It's not even a heritage of how far Igbo goes, whether they get Okene or whether they don't get Okene, how far it dominates. We're talking about our heritage as a nation. Have you ever read about Benin dynasty, the Benin kingdom? Have you read about Benin kingdom? The people in Benin should be asking themselves, how did we lose our civilization? How do we regain it back? These are things that the nation is supposed to be discussing, because Nigeria is filled with brilliant mind, brilliant kingdoms, intellectuals that are doing so well every place in the world. But we allow ourselves to be mad into stupid discussions and allow these fools who are in power to plunder Nigeria, so to say, to plunder Nigeria, spoil everything, loot it, go and save it in foreign nations. Somebody wakes up, take Nigerian money, go and buy a $3 million house elsewhere, outside Nigeria. For who? Children that can wake up tomorrow and waste the money. The nation goes into penury. And there is no penal code to punish the rich and punish the people who are the problem that we have in Nigeria. But you see a boy who stole goats or who steals money or steals food stuff to feed his family, you send him to 20 years in jail. There are many people in Nigerian prisons today who have spent over 4 or 5 years in prison, yet waiting at trial. Awaiting trial in Nigeria. Go to our prisons and check how many people that are there awaiting trials. Their matters have not even been brought to court. The federal government could not even give them lawyers to defend their cases. They came to Nnamdi Kanu, they are saying that if you don't have a lawyer, we can give you a lawyer. So Nigeria knows that it can give Defendants who do not have the money to afford lawyers, they can give them lawyers. And yet there are people who are pending on criminal cases that just need somebody to speak up for them. And you have government lawyers that you can assign to these people to defend their cases and bring it to legal attention. But you will not give it to them. If you don't know anybody in Nigeria, you're wasted. If you're not very close to the corridor of authority, you're wasted. I'm sorry for you. The hope in Nigeria is very far-fetched. If the foundation of Nigeria cannot be renegotiated, if you like, create 13 local governments in Southeast. If you like, create 20. If you like, let all the local governments come from one place. If you like, make every region in Nigeria to have 10 local governments. It will not solve the problem of Nigeria. That does not mean that we cannot start with equity. Now, the region has to also agree on where the state will be before they start negotiating the other. Kenneth Okonkwo, I saw him the other day now, he's talking about getting it in UNN area, right? That one is a political decision. But where I am concerned and I'm angry is the fact that people are even saying we are not Igbos when your identity is Igbo. If you're not Igbo, how does it benefit you? How are you better? If you're Igbo, how are you better? How am I better that I'm Igbo? We're talking about a working nation. But at least you need to face the reality and the truth about your identity first before you can even ask the question about the nation. Until next time, please, I'm Dr. Faith. And if you have not subscribed, please, this is the only thing that you can do for this channel is to subscribe, share, and hit the notification button so that anytime I drop a video, you can always get notified. This channel, what we're here is to enlighten the mind on finance and true politics. This is not a political campaign. I'm a bipartisan politician, so to say. We talk about knowledge on this podcast. Until next time, this is Man-Made Podcast. I'm Dr. Faith. Thank you.